Welcome to our special coverage of tonight's Democratic Town Hall in Derry, New Hampshire. I'm Shannon Bream at America's News election headquarters in Washington. It has been 48 hours since the coin tosses in Iowa decided the race for Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders. Tonight, a new arena and a fresh chance for both presidential candidates to prove who's boss in the first in the nation primary state.
Are you still an underdog?
Of course we're an underdog. We are taking on the most powerful political organization in the country, and that's, the Clinton organization.
What are your plans for keeping us safe from terrorism?
We have got to crush ISIS, right, for a start. As somebody who voted against the war in Iraq, what I believe is we got to learn the lessons of that war.
You have worked for many years to say it's my way or the highway.
It is not accurate to say that it's my way or the highway.
Do you see any limitations for yourself in the ability to serve 2 terms to enact these sweeping changes that you envision for our country?
I don't, Mark. We'll take 1 term at a time. Got to get to the first term first.
You would be 83 at the end of your 2nd term.
But, thank goodness. Let's not be ageist here.
Do you feel you do better when you're fighting from behind?
I don't know.
Does it bring out something in you?
Well, the intensity of the experience.
As a voter who is opposed to the United States being the world's policeman, can you assure me that as president you would not expand our military involvement abroad?
No, I can't, Michael. I mean, I'd like to be able to say I could, but here's what I can say. I have learned and have been really in the crucible of making a lot of hard decisions over the last years. And military force must always be a last resort, not a first choice.
How are you going to defend yourself against right-wing attacks?
Well, Sean, I've had a lot of practice.
Do you still believe there's a vast right-wing conspiracy?
Don't you?
I'm asking you.
Yeah. It's gotten even better funded. They brought in some new multi-billionaires to pump the money in.
All right, the high stakes he said, she said lasted 2 hours, and our chief White House correspondent Ed Henry watched all of it. He joins us from outside the town hall site, which is the historic Opera House in Derby, New Hampshire. All right, Ed, this was different tonight. They weren't head-to-head. Did you think either one of them came out the winner?
Right. Well, I think they both had strong moments, and frankly, I saw exactly in this as a microcosm of what I'm seeing out here on the trail with both these candidates and why Bernie Sanders is giving Hillary Clinton fits right now and why this is such a close race unexpectedly for Democrats. I mean, at the end there, you saw it in a nutshell. Hillary Clinton had a lot of strong moments tonight, specifically walking her way around the world, showing her foreign policy chops, saying in a very honest way to that one voter, I can't promise I won't commit more troops. This is a dangerous world. And at that moment, I was thinking there had to be people in our Brooklyn headquarters wondering, why didn't we put Hillary Clinton out there more? Why did we let the DNC limit these debates and forums? Because she's real and she can be authentic in moments like that. And then you flip it around, and that last part there about a vast right-wing conspiracy, her saying, don't you believe that? They're out to get me and all of that. And the pity in that answer shows you why she's struggling. And then another answer after that, she was asked why she took $600,000 from Goldman Sachs in 3 speeches, and he said, that's what they were offering, I don't know. And then pressed, well, wouldn't it, by Anderson Cooper, wouldn't this look bad in a presidential campaign? Listen to what she said here. It's a remarkable answer.
But did you have to be paid $675,000?
Well, I don't know. That's what they offered. So, every Secretary of State that I know has done that.
But that's usually once they're office and not running for an office again.
Well, I didn't
know. Have known.
To be honest, I wasn't committed to running. I didn't know whether I would or not.
You didn't think you were going to run for president again?
I didn't. When I was Secretary of State, several times I said, I think I'm done.
There you go right there. All of the things I laid out where she had good moments tonight, and then right there, slips up on the Wall Street thing that Bernie Sanders has been hammering her on, and then saying, to be honest, I just didn't know that this would look bad in a campaign. I wasn't sure I was going to run for president. Everyone in the world knows Hillary Clinton has been planning this for years now. That answer at the end, in a nutshell, shows why poll after poll says voters don't find her honest and trustworthy, Shannon.
Yeah, she definitely tried to write a different narrative on that front. At one point, Ed saying, you know, when I was a little girl growing up, I didn't think I'd ever be here asking for your vote as president. I just wanted to be in service behind the scenes. So definitely trying to paint it a little bit differently than the way most people characterize her presidential ambitions. I want to ask you as well about both she and Senator Sanders trying to sort of out-progressive each other. Who is the real progressive in the room? A lot of debate about that tonight.
Yeah, I mean, look, I talked a lot about Hillary Clinton. Bernie Sanders, you saw tonight pieces of why he's connecting with voters. He's tapping into the anger about Wall Street, about the economy, about the middle class, in his words, being shafted. But he also is direct. He's blunt. He's funny. He, at one point, was asked about Larry Sanders' impersonation of him. He said, I am Larry Sanders. It's real. You heard the crowd responding to that, of Democratic voters. But then on the progressive issue, he was hammered today by Hillary Clinton, saying it was a low blow that he had said on the trail here yesterday in New Hampshire that sometimes she's a progressive, sometimes she's a moderate. She says that's a low blow. She took umbrage. Here they are back and forth on that.
So when all I said, you can't go and say you're a moderate on one day and be a progressive on the other day. Some of my best friends are moderates. I love moderates. But you can't be a moderate and a progressive. They are different.
I said that I'm a progressive who likes to get things done. And I was somewhat amused today that Senator Sanders has set himself up to be the gatekeeper on who's a progressive.
So you see the fight between the liberal and centrist wings of the party. But the other point there, I think, is that she was pressed by Anderson Cooper. Why not have a revolution like Bernie Sanders is saying? And Hillary Clinton said, well, because I want to build on the progress from President Obama. She thinks that's going to help her here in New Hampshire, around the country, to get Democrats to come home to her, to say she's backing the president. On the other hand, Sanders may use that against her by saying, you just want the status quo. You want a third Obama term. I want something a lot different. So in a nutshell, tonight, we really saw the battle lines drawn, Shannon.
Yeah, and she did talk a lot about how she needs to be in the White House because she's the one who will continue the Obama legacy. And she said, I'll fight to keep his policies in place and go even further. But hey, I'm just as progressive, if not more, than Bernie Sanders, and I'm going to do something totally different. So, all right, Ed, we appreciate you breaking that down for us from Derry, New Hampshire tonight. Thank you.
Big night. Good to be with you. Good to be with you.
All right, joining me now to break down tonight's Democratic Candidate Forum is Chris Direwalt, Fox News Digital Politics Editor, Amy Stoddard, Associate Editor for The Hill, David Catanese, Senior Politics Writer for U.S. News and World Report, and Jillian Turner, former National Security Council member under the Bush and Obama administrations and a Fox News contributor. Good to see all of you. Direwalt, a lot of chuckling from you, especially when Hillary said she's not been planning to run for president. You weren't buying what she was selling.
Well, I was smelling what she was smoking, and I don't think that it was wholly honest. Look, Hillary Clinton has a problem, which is when she tries to put the authenticity chip in, or she tries to upload the program that says be relatable in this phase, voters know. Look, at times you saw what I would guess would be the real Hillary Clinton come through when she told the guy who asked her about, can you promise me that you won't expand our military commitments?
Nope.
Nope, 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 nope. And she said it with, I don't think it was probably a very politic answer, but it was an honest answer and straightforward. But at other times when she was trying to do, it felt so hokey. She's talking about wearing sweatpants, and it felt like she's just like us. Bernie Sanders, he was great. He had a fantastic night. If you were open to the idea of Bernie Sanders, he told you something that was pleasant. He told you a good story. She told you a grim, bad story. He told you that he could find a way to work with Republicans in Congress. She said that, you know, she would basically grind their bones into flour and bake bread. So it was two starkly different worldviews that you saw on display.
Amy, how much do you think it matters, this conversation about Goldman Sachs that has come up before? But tonight we heard the dollar amount, and she said, well, that's what they were offering. I mean, she can't deny she took the payment, so best to make light of it. Is that a good strategy for her?
No. I think she should have come up with an answer for that a long time ago, and not that's what they offered. That is more money than most people will see in many decades, and they're living on, you know, paycheck to paycheck, and that's just, and they're Democrats, and they want to know what these two are going to do. And it just fell really flat. That said, I think she had the best night of her campaign. I think she's actually not good in debates. She has a fake smile and a fake laugh. She gets very combative and very loud. This town hall setting, she didn't really seem like she was into it when she arrived. She seemed tired. But her answers on cancer, on right to die, actually on the Supreme Court, and of course her answer to the rabbi were the best I've ever seen her. I thought she was more likable, more relatable, more comfortable than I've ever seen her, at least in this campaign, in a very tumultuous campaign. I do think that it's not that she's going to take votes away from Bernie. If you're with Bernie, you're with Bernie, and Bernie had a great night. And I think it's actually interesting that he's pivoting to, you know, I have been in the Senate and I've cut deals with Republicans and I've worked hard and I have a legislative record. But there's a lot of tension between these two. Bernie Sanders' campaign was told they would not continue to look at the counting in precincts on Tuesday night in the middle of the night. The debates has been entirely under the control of the DNC with the cooperation of the Hillary Clinton campaign. He just admitted for the first time yesterday he was never consulted about the debates.
Wow.
This is very tense situation, which I think will boil it out into the open tomorrow in a real debate where they're locking horns, and also in the weeks to come.
David, I want to go back to the Supreme Court, which A.B. mentioned tonight, because former Secretary Clinton talked about she wants somebody who's rooted in the real world. She kept kind of going back to that. She mentioned about fighting for rights for LGBT and making sure that Roe v. Wade doesn't get overturned. She talked about campaign finance. But she just kept going back to this. I just want somebody who's rooted in the real world. That's not how we think of most of the justices. But she wouldn't. I don't know about that answer because, you know, I tweet that out and people are saying, what about rooted in the Constitution? What about rooted in the law?
I think it's part of her way to humanize herself. She doesn't want to, you know, her first inclination on that answer, I believe, was like, well, I'm not going to give it to the bankers. She sort of struggled on how to describe the person, and that's where she ended up. But I think that she is in an uphill fight on the frame of the debate over the last 24 to 48 hours, which is who's more progressive. She loses that debate to Bernie Sanders every time and twice on Sundays. She just can't ever be more progressive than Bernie Sanders. I think her weakest answer of the night was the Wall Street answer. The answer that you guys played in the soundbite. It'll be replayed by Republicans, I think, throughout the rest of this week. I think her best answer was when she was speaking about going through personal strife and how she's resilient and how she's a fighter and how she keeps clawing back. And I think that is the best theme for her to run on. The only other thing I'd say is I think Bernie Sanders did have a very good night because he's beginning to look like her equal in these settings. He's becoming a better communicator by the week, and he looked very plausible tonight as the Democratic nominee.
And he did get some questions about what would you do in the general. I'm not sure I could vote for you. And he says people do tell him that, like, I'd like you, but I'm not sure I can vote for you because I don't know about you in the general. When you look at the numbers of him head-to-head, it's surprising how well he does against many of the GOP contenders. He kept saying tonight, he went after Donald Trump multiple times, and he kept saying, I hope it's him, because I would take him on and I would beat him. The Real Clear Politics average does show head-to-head he would beat Trump and some of the other GOP contenders.
Yeah, it's interesting because leading up to Iowa, the gloves came off when it came to Sanders and Clinton. And we saw them really engage one another for the first time. Tonight, they were back on a little bit. And it was, again, this question of, are they running against each other? Or are they running against the GOP, most specifically Donald Trump? But I think overall, Sanders had a great night. He was kind of his best, most authentic self tonight. Clinton, by comparison, I think she was likable, probably more likable than she was in the last debate, but still a little bit down, a little bit pessimistic, as Chris pointed out earlier tonight, and I think that's going to come back to hurt her. This theme that's been running through the Democratic side of this, the whole election cycle, is sort of insiders versus outsiders. That came up to hurt her this evening with the Goldman Sachs question. She really fumbled that one. I think she has a lot to overcome in terms of the likability factor there.
She talked to a lot in response to the question from the rabbi, which A.B. mentioned as well, about this competition between her ego and wanting to be a servant. And she gave that pitch that also made you chuckle, Chris, where she said, basically, I just want to serve behind the scenes. But I've been called to do what I have to do to help save the country from the evil, wicked Koch brothers, which she invoked a number of times tonight.
Exactly.
So she almost made it sound like we're forcing her to run for president.
Right. She doesn't want to do it.
But she will.
But she feels that she owes it to us. Look, Hillary Clinton has been running for president in some way or another since about 1968.
Right before she tried to join the Marines.
Right, exactly. This has been her life's work. And we remember her husband and 2 for 1 and all that stuff. She ought to cut out the baloney. She ought to say, she's at her best in this debate when she frames this election in stark terms for Democrats. When she says, guess what? The Republicans are mean, nasty, they're cruel, they got money, and they're going to come and grind you up. That's exactly what they're going to do. Because the reason Bernie Sanders is not going to be the Democratic nominee, by the way, is the Democrats know that he'd lose 45 states. He tickles their liberal, the erogenous zones are all inflamed with Bernie Sanders, but then they think it's
This is an 11 o'clock show.
It's cool. It's 11 p.m. and it's cable. It's cable. But no, the point is, as they think about it, they go, oh, I'd like to have it, but I can't do it. On the Republican side, if you juxtapose, what do the Republicans say? The Republican frontrunner says, oh, I beat Hillary Clinton. Nothing. Well, the Hillary Clinton you saw tonight, it would be a very tough contender. Those moments when she's tough and she's straightforward, poll after poll says the same thing among the general electorate. They don't trust her, they don't like her, but they think she's a strong leader and should be tough to beat.
Yeah, and there were those who, even when they pushed her on several things, and we'll get to more of her foreign policy issues after this break, but there were those, even when she was pushed, they acknowledged she's got a wealth of experience, and they talked about the upside that she would be able to argue as she took us around the world with some of her experience tonight.